to How to Win a Lottery Season, don't know, U module, second person module, Book 5, The Malady. Oh, also,
Surprise Nurses, Part 2.
the episode before the last one, I was like, our next book is our 100th book. And then this one, I was like, our last book was our 100th book. On the episode for 100th book, did not think to mention.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Suicide was our 100th book.
We're kind of we're pretty cool.
This is 101.
Yeah, we're pretty cool about things.
But episode 1 to 31, maybe.
Why?
Intro episodes, interview episodes.
Oh yeah. John from Cincinnati Minutes.
Those don't count. Those are not even accessible anymore. The Patreon has been discontinued.
Everybody, welcome to the John from Cincinnati Minute.
Do you think anybody who came here for the Marguerite Duras book is still listening, or they've already? This is not for me.
Do you remember how hard we laughed at the kid's delivery of something like, he's got brain cancer, Mom, or something like that? Like, I laughed so hard at that.
That show is still referenced on some podcasts I listen to, like one of 5 different ones, once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
People are obsessed with that show.
Yeah. J from C.
J from C.
Anyway.
Malady of Death by Marguerite Duras.
Marguerite Duras. A very, very short novella.
20
Short
pages.
for a novella. Almost just a short story. I've read longer short stories.
Important right off the bat. Horny module alert.
Yeah.
Horny module.
Well, also horny module written by a woman, right? Because we've
By a drunk.
explained that.
So
Yeah, because I found that depressing, but also it seems like a really crazy way to be an artist, to try to get this stuff out of yourself.
there is a mystery about this book that the egg, who we will hear from later in the episode, who reads along
Eggster.
with all of our books, said that she got the physical book, and it was 60 or 80 pages long, but the font was enormous and there were tons of blank pages. And we're
Did you talk? You talked to her about
I
it?
texted her a little bit.
Yeah.
And so she said the Kindle version is probably correct. It's 20 pages, because she also read that. I said it feels like a real life Eve on the Winter Side of Traveler, where it's you read a book, but the book's got missing pages. What are you going to do about it? But now it's just we'll just go to Google and download another book or whatever, right?
Yeah.
She said it might also be because 60 pages are 100-point font with huge margins. And she sent a picture.
100-point font.
That's what she says.
14-point font, maybe.
But then I copied a thing from our wiki page that said Duras began to write the book in Trouville, where she drank 6 to 7 liters of wine each day. I said she was fucking blasted.
Is that a lot of wine? That's a lot of wine, right?
6 to 7. That's 3 2-liter bottles of Pepsi.
How many?
Or whatever.
How many? Yeah, okay, but wine is not Pepsi. How many? It doesn't have the bubbles. How many bottles of wine could you drink, do you think?
And not feel sick or function? What am I trying to do?
Have I ever told you about my podcast idea with my friend Pauline?
I don't know.
It was just called Pauline Reads the Classics, but Pauline was going to start reading a book.
Yeah.
Like a book that was not part of, that was not old enough to not be copyrighted. So you can just read it like it's an audiobook. And the podcast was going to last exactly as long as it took for her to either throw up or pass out, because she would start reading the book while drinking. And then she would just read until, and so you
and what would you be doing?
Nothing. This is her. I was just on board as
okay. As a twisted mind behind Pauline Reads the Classics.
Yeah. I think it's Pauline's idea. I just wanted to
You were there. You're on board.
Yeah. Maybe I'd come or something, but this is all Pauline.
Maybe you'd what?
Maybe I'd be there and maybe comment on things or.
She could read to you.
Yeah, exactly. So that there was someone in the room. Oh, and I might give her a glass of water or something, or
so it's like drunk history, but books.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Now people who have turned in to listen to this book have definitely stopped listening.
So what is your question? How much wine could I drink?
Yeah. How much wine can you drink in a day?
I think there's a difference between in a day and every day.
Let's just say in a day.
I could do 6 to 7 liters.
You could?
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay.
I don't know if that's true.
All right. How much could you do in one shot? Do you think at a long dinner, you think you could do 3 bottles?
3 bottles is a lot. The issue I would have is like I have to pee a lot. Like that's
fun.
Unless like this is like a Mr. Show, like Rudy Will Await Your Foundation, where there's a toilet in the seat. In that case,
Okay.
maybe it'd be easier. I don't know that I could do 3 in a dinner. Although
You can by yourself do 1 bottle of wine easily, right?
I don't really drink wine. I don't know. I would assume if I really set my mind to it,
Yeah.
I would guess between 1.5 and 2 bottles in a long dinner. I don't think I could, like 3 seems crazy.
I don't think I've ever seen you drunk.
I don't like getting drunk. 'Cause I don't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
losing
Uh-huh.
time
Yeah.
or control.
Yeah.
I've been very drunk a couple of times.
It feels like the draft is the place that I would see you do that.
But I have to run the draft.
Yeah, but you're like in
Although
charge.
now, this year, actually, this episode comes out the week after the draft.
Okay.
It does feel like the Honorable Judge Matterly really wants me to have fun because I'm like, I don't like the draft. I want to enjoy draft weekend. It's always stressful for me. So it seems like his only goal this year is to let me have fun at the draft.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to dose you with Molly.
6 to 7 bottles of wine, 6 to 7 liters of wine.
That's a lot of wine.
I think. Okay, so if a 2-liter bottle of soda is 2 liters, I think maybe a bottle of wine, like a standard bottle of wine, is maybe a liter.
That sounds about right.
So it's 6 to 7 bottles of wine per day.
Yeah.
I think you could.
I could do it.
Would you want to do the same wine start to finish, or do you want to mix it up?
No, you'd go the same start to finish, I think. I would throw up because my stomach couldn't handle it more so than anything else.
You would need.
It would be too acidic to me.
When I drink wine, which is rare,
Yeah.
I drink red. I don't think I could do 6 to 7 liters
No,
of red wine.
No. Oh, I was going to say, I couldn't do it with white wine.
I don't know what I would do.
Well, should we try this? Should we try to just one day do 7 liters of wine each?
How much wine is 7 liters of wine?
I think we've stepped off the podcast path here, and now we're just having a conversation.
7 liters of wine. AI overview. This is how wrong it is.
Yeah, all right.
7 liters of wine is equal to 7 glasses of wine.
Yeah, it's what is this AI bullshit?
A standard bottle of wine is 3/4 of a liter. So to do 7 liters of wine is actually like
9
or 10.
Yeah, 9 or 10. 9 or 10 bottles of wine.
You would need to do one by the time you finish breakfast. You have to have at least one done.
Yeah. All right, finish what I can't wait to hear how you edit all of this. Finish finish what you were saying about her.
Oh, she just drank a lot of wine.
No, but there's more to that. Like she went to rehab during it.
So she like was just writing and just drinking a lot. She finished 10 pages, moved to town, I don't know how to pronounce the name. Stopped eating, kept drinking. Began each morning by drinking 2 glasses, which she vomited up, was able to keep the third. So she's maybe, if she's drinking 7 liters of wine, if she's throwing up 2/3 of it, Dura had become incapable to write herself, so she recited lines to her nurse, who wrote them down for her. The manuscript had the development title, A Scent of Heliotrope and Citron, but when it was 20 pages long, which maybe is the final, who knows, she changed it to the final title. Eventually, she agreed to go to a clinic for alcoholics, and on October 21st of 1982, she was taken to the American Hospital of Paris. Upon returning from the clinic, she immediately began to proofread her work, and then Marguerite Duras died 14 years later. So she lived for a while after that.
Good.
But
that sounds like hell.
Yeah, does not seem good.
That sounds like hell. Do you get the sense that this book was written by someone who was particularly drunk or particularly tortured or particularly anything?
I don't know what this is really about. Like, again,
right.
Like suicide, I think. So the story of this is that a man hires a young girl, maybe like a really young girl.
Mm-hmm. What makes you think that?
The way that it's describing, like she's just describing like it's basically like nubile is like it just feels like very young.
Okay.
To not like sleep with him, but just to like literally sleep in a room because he has never loved, he's never been in love, and he's wondering like what that feels like.
And sort of berate him.
Yeah, a little bit like a cucking scenario.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think cucking is?
It's not. What's the?
Whoa. I hope that was caught on mic.
I don't think it was. Not cucking. What's the one where you just like pay somebody to be mean to you?
It's just masochism.
Okay. And it feels like, so while she's sleeping there, she's like, you got the malady of death on you.
Wait, side note that's not going to make sense to anyone. Did Rollins ever figure out what JLI is?
I don't think so.
All right. Okay. And we're back.
Considering the thread is a bunch of people who would rather ask other people a question instead of just Googling it.
Well, yes.
The one guy who is not necessarily a friend just asked, like, what's that mean? Just like, I don't know, ask Google. We're not a search engine.
Yeah.
Student Nurses is ending. So, while while the young girl is there...
My stomach is coming apart right now.
While the young girl is there, she says, you have the malady of death on you.
Yeah, which means what?
He's going to die, I guess. But then one night, he wakes up and she's gone.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that at that moment, I thought the book was about coming to terms with the fact that someone near you has died. Not that you're going to die, but maybe also someone near you has died, and that makes you realize more so than ever that you too will die one day.
Okay.
And then the last like 4 pages of the book are Marguerite Duras going like,
if I were going to make this into a movie, if this were going to be a play, here's what I would do with it, which is like, I love that as the end of the book. I love that as the end of the book. So good.
It's so much.
Like to the point where like it's so short that's like maybe like an eighth of the book.
Yeah. This woman's like, look, I know what I wrote's a classic. People are going to be talking about it forever.
Yeah. If you're going to film it, do some cheesy transition shit where the waves look like they're on his face.
The girl should know her lines, but never open her eyes. The man is reading from a script.
Yeah. Fuck yes. Yes. We're going to get Ken Russell to direct it. He's going to, there's going to be some frankly disgusting stuff in there. Yeah. It's going to be great.
There is a big section on the wiki page for The Malady of Death that is about the 2 different stage productions.
Wow.
Of
They
this.
did it.
Film director Andrew Rapaski McElhenney.
Sure. Andrew Rapaski McElhenney, classic.
From Philadelphia.
Yeah. Rob McElhenney's dad.
Mm-hmm. Staged it and opened it in December of 1999 at the Atrium Theater in New York.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2018, playwright Alice Birch adapted it for the stage under the French title The Malady de la Mort. Play premiered at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, directed by Katie Mitchell. Narrated in French and English subtitles projected on screen.
Yeah.
This production relied heavily on the use of live feed grayscale images to give the audience a sense of disassociation.
Yeah, so this is, again, like I said with the last book, this is capital L, we're taking everything very seriously literature that is heavily reliant on symbolism and probably a working knowledge of psychoanalysis, or at least Freudian ideas of sex and death being intertwined to the point of almost blurring the lines between the two, even though they stand as counterpoints to each other.
Do you think my sort of interpretation is that what you got out of it too, or no? About like reckoning with your own death because someone else is no longer in your life? Because it seems like this guy only lives in his apartment. Like, he doesn't go out in the world.
Right, yeah.
He doesn't really talk to people at all.
Yeah.
He brings a young girl in, and then when she's gone, she may as well be dead because he will never see her again anyway.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So...
yeah, I like that a turning point in their relationship seems to be this idea that he thinks that the sea is black and she doesn't see.
She's like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, she doesn't see the sea that way. She's like, yeah, that shit's blue, buddy. Or well, like white. There's the white caps and stuff. And it uses color as, I guess, a point of view to display character.
Well, I think that like what that second stage adaptation did, like the cover of this is like gray, and it feels like it's unlike Suicide, where it's like the pointillism, where it's like a guy is mostly there but not really there. This just feels like she's there but she's fading.
Yeah.
Kind of. But I don't know.
Right. Neither character is named.
I had a question about, I think it's normal, I don't think this is just a thing I do, to when you're reading a book to picture until the protagonist is described, sort of put yourself in the protagonist's shoes. Is that a normal thing to do, or is that not a normal thing to do?
I think it's normal.
And then do you think it's even more normal in this type of module where the books that we are all reading are about you?
Yeah.
To be like, oh, it is me.
Yeah. Or I don't know. I don't know that I do that. Maybe I do.
Or do you think like this woman, like this is written by an old French woman? Are you picturing by default like an old French woman?
Like Isabelle Huppert or something like that.
Yeah. Drinking 7 liters of wine a day.
She could do it a lot more easily than I could.
I'd watch that.
I don't, well, this is the Levin thing of face characters.
Yeah.
Right. Again, we return to this idea of face characters. What happens to me sometimes is when I'm reading a book, a character will immediately appear to me as someone that I know. Mm-hmm. That's not through any choice of mine. Sometimes it'll be it'll be like I remember there was this one waitress at a diner that I used to go to all the time. And I read a short story, and I don't even remember what the short story was, but like her face immediately stuck itself to that character. And it was just like, oh, that's her. And so that happens sometimes where I'll be reading something and it'll be like, oh, this person is this character. And sometimes it'll be like, someone I have a crush on or something like that.
Yeah.
Or,
do you have a crush on that waitress?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
What's something you're thinking about?
Yeah, someone that is, but I don't even know, because I think it just happens, and it's like, oh, this is like the right face for this thing. I never think of like actors or anything like that, really.
Are you doing that in this module with the you or no?
I haven't, because it's not something that I don't. It doesn't happen consciously. It's just like, oh, it just
when it happens,
like,
happens.
bam, this is who this is.
Because I do think that like. And there's things about the second person in this that I noted, because that's what I'm trying to like pay it. I'm with the module being about that, like I'm noting how it differs, but it feels like the point of doing this is to put you in the footsteps of the main character.
I think often that's the case. Yeah.
So like this is like your like, especially like Bright Lights Big City feels like that for sure. Interior Chinatown's a little bit maybe different because it's like stylized in a way that
but Interior Chinatown is doing the work of putting you in the place of a Chinese American, which it assumes that a majority of readers are not that, right. And so it's asking you to imagine yourself as a marginalized person, or a particular, if you already are a marginalized person, a different kind of marginalized person, and through placing yourself in their shoes, maybe gaining empathy or something like that.
Because I know that like everybody brings to a book what they like, their life experiences and whatever, and they're going to be either to your point, like either be like more empathetic or less or whatever. But I wonder if like the discrepancy is even greater in a text like this, where it's talking to you, where like if you and like just like some like an 18-year-old high school student or whatever has such wildly different, even though you're from the same area, whatever, similar things but different things, have such different life experiences that you're reading a thing in a different way. But then if it's you, does that bring you closer together or separate apart? Like it's
I think that's a great question. I think second person is a unique phenomenon because of that, because it deals with questions of empathy in a way that third person and first person don't.
Yeah. There's also something interesting in here compared to the other books we've read is that it's you, but it's more about her.
Right.
There's a lot of her.
Yes.
And then like toward the end, Margaret Duras is like, and I. I'm just like, you can't, no, I. Because it's like, again, like it's not long, but like toward the end, just like, I. It's like, hold on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to be like,
off.
You, because the you in this is like almost like a non-character. Like you're just there kind of watching. and she's not really doing much, but the her is the new element of the equation, right? So like it makes more sense to be about her.
Yeah, you're passive by very nature, by the nature of the arrangement, which I assumed was prostitution.
But he asks her, and she says it's not, or like it's clarified like this is not prostitution, even though they have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for the first time in his life,
right? Because he has the malady of death about him.
Yeah,
which again, like the malady of death, I think can be taken literally as he's a dying person.
But also we all are.
Yeah. But this might be a sympathy, but it also might just be the malady of death as like, you ever just see someone and been like,
oh yeah,
like that guy's, he's got it bad.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on with that guy, I don't want any of that business. He seems down.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I read it, especially because there's so many parts in here where he's like, or rather not so many, but there's a long stretch where he's just like, do you think, could you love me? Could anybody love me? And she just goes, no.
So mean.
Like, you're unlovable, and you're unlovable because you have the malady of death.
Which also feels like a thing that she might have just made up.
Yeah, but that's a fucking banger. If you made that up on the spot, if someone were like, what's wrong with me? Like, what? Tell me what's wrong with me. And you go, what's wrong with you is you've got the malady of death. In your head, you would be like, nailed it.
I also think, look, I don't want to take away from this fictional girl's credit, but if a creepy old man who has the malady of death is like, hey, I want to hire you to just sleep in my bed for 3 days or 4 days or whatever, and you're just lying there and just like resting, think about all kinds of shit. You got banger after banger in your head.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, you know what else you got? You got this, you got that, you got that. It's just like, okay.
It reminded me a little bit of, oh God, what's his name? What is his name? John Ronson, Psychopath Test, right? I might get some of this wrong because this is a really old story that I have not thought about in a while. John Ronson had a podcast where he was looking at the world of pornography, and he was interviewing these women who did like I guess like by request videos.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this one guy doing these request videos for them.
They're called customs.
Okay. Okay. Custom JOI, baby. They would, all this guy wanted was for these women to speak into the microphone, look at him and say like, you're worthy. Mm-hmm. You deserve to live. Don't kill yourself. Don't like, and then he like, and they had a standing appointment like weekly. And then one week he didn't show up to it, and they saved his life, I think, because they like knew obviously that he was a person that was dealing with serious
suicidal or something,
serious depression issues. And when he didn't show up to something that was like obviously very like a weekly standard thing they had to do, like they found out where he was, and I think they rescued him, and he ended up living. So it was like kind of a feel good story that they actually did have this empathy for this guy that he was paying them, but like ultimately they also did think that he was like worthy of living, and like went through the effort of making sure that he did come out alive, because they're caring people, as I think maybe most people are. I hesitate a little. There's a little stutter in that maybe most people are, but I like to think that most people are. And so I don't know. I thought like maybe this was a book about empathy but it ends up not being, because she is quite cruel to him at parts.
I mean, I guess there's also a version of this story where like you, the main character, die. Like when she leaves, you actually die.
Yeah.
Which just makes it sadder. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It's a bummer. I didn't really like this.
Okay.
Again, like I said, for Suicide, I think the shorter it is, like it really needs to like do something for me. And this just kind of felt like, I get what you're doing, but it didn't do it.
Well, there's a lot of empty spaces, I think, because not filling in those empty spaces with plot, prose, characters, dialogue, even.
Like I like a moody atmosphere thing. It's just like if you're gonna do a thing that's 20 pages, like have a kind of a thing, and then to have 4 of those pages or whatever be like, well, here's how to stage it.
That's the best part.
I liked it, but I'm also like, I don't know that I need this.
Like
I'm just like,
that's such a coup d'etat to go like, and now for the meta part.
Yep. I thought for a second like it was like from a translate or something, but I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's weird because that's the only part that I read when I was here.
Because there's no break between the text and that. It's like the text ends and it's like line break and then it's just like, here's how you stage it. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
What's that Comedy Bang Bang character that comes in and says, and now it's time for the breakdown? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's like kind of what, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that much to say. I quite like this, but it was, again, it's like similar to the previous book is very European, is very capital L literature.
I will say that this gave me a very like, it feels like we're in a tiny little European apartment. Yeah. Like it feels like there's like a bed and like a table with a light and a window. And like, that's all that's
it reminded me a little bit of Sweet Days of Discipline, the Fleur Jaggi book. And I don't know if that's just because it's like, again, European.
Maybe.
The aesthetics of like sort
also young girl.
Yeah. Beautifully written prose that ultimately feels a little empty. Again, I think this benefits through a psychoanalytical point of view where you really look at the connection between sex and death. And like this guy that's close to death relates to it through sex. And then also there's the French idea of the little death as the orgasm, which is something that's been overanalyzed, I think. But makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what Egg has to say, because she might stimulate some conversation about the book that goes beyond.
So we have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. Write in about this book, any book, or what you want in a bookstore. What do you think is good in the bookstore? What do you like? What do you don't like? What gets you excited when you walk into a bookstore? Egg writes, while reading this book, I kept getting distracted because I kept remembering that you both would be reading this book together while sitting in the same room, even though I don't think that happened. It didn't.
Yeah, we were planning on holding hands while reading it.
Although I did stare at you while you read the final 4. Actually, I was watching Student Nurses on mute.
Surprise nurses.
No. There's a 1962 Japanese film on right now.
Yeah? What is it? Take Aim to the Police fan?
Love Under the Crucifix.
Sure, yeah.
By Kinuyo Tanaka.
I mean, who hasn't?
Egg says, I ended up buying the ebook. So there's also, I think you can charge whatever you want for art.
I was fucking pissed off at how expensive this book was.
I got it for $3.
Okay, mine
was normally $13.
Yeah, mine was $13.
It's insane.
Yeah, I was very mad at how expensive this book was.
Infuriating. Even for $3, I'm like, like, look.
Yeah, sorry, Meg. I'm sorry that you bought the book.
I don't want to say art should cost a certain thing, but at a certain point, art should cost a certain thing.
Yeah, this is expensive.
I ended up buying the ebook because of the quick scheduling change. There were a couple of parts that I wasn't sure if they were imperfections in the ebook, and so I was missing content or intentional errors. The first was the line she says, FM here, right in front of you. Look for yourself.
Yeah.
And the second was the fact that the book didn't really end. It just went right into talking about how the book could be adapted on screen or on stage. It felt more like an author's note, but it would mean something else, which is part of the book. And then, because the further scheduling changes, I was able to pick up the physical book I had on hold at the library. The 2 issues were resolved. The FM here is I'm here.
Yeah, of course it is.
And the last bit of, I was just like, okay, just a typo.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, yeah.
And while the last bit of the book is right after the main text, the way that text is formatted, it's a new section. But, in all capital letters, there are multiple blank pages. I texted Shreds about it because I assumed it was on purpose. I assumed the blank pages were there on purpose to add the slowness.
Yeah, I'm sure.
However, when I looked more closely and compared to the ebook, there was text that was missing. And for the text itself, I found it interesting that in the part where the author spoke to us directly, she spoke of 2 male characters. It makes sense because there's an I and a U, but it's not something that I would thought about while reading. All in all, a small book that felt a little difficult to parse. Looking forward to listening to the app. Well, Egg.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't solve any mysteries here. I don't know. This is a tough book to talk about. I don't know, and I'm sorry that you bought the book because it was so expensive.
I feel like I might have texted one or both of you and like, hey, this is on, because I just tracked the Kindle prices.
I'm sure you did.
And I'm like, hey, this is on sale, and like she probably like thumbs up, and you probably didn't respond to it.
Yeah. I'm sure that I ignored that.
I will. You want to cheer it up a little bit?
Yeah.
So we got a cold email request to be on the podcast.
Oh fuck.
From a guy named Tad.
Tad, yeah, win a date with.
Potential guest for How to Win the Lottery, a book club podcast.
Yeah.
Tad says, hey, podcast team.
Oh, hey, I'm
not saying Tad's last name just to keep him a little bit on it, because I interact with Tad later in the story. Hey, podcast team, Tad writes, dear listeners on How to Win the Lottery, a book club podcast, crave true crime stories that uncover real-life details others miss? I'd be happy to take them behind the scenes and reveal how I use cutting-edge forensic science to crack the toughest cases and deliver justice. As a board-certified criminal defense attorney and American Chemical Society certified lawyer-scientist, I've spent over 30 years blending cutting-edge forensic science with relentless courtroom strategies to uncover the truths others miss.
I mean, this rules. Yeah, right on, Tad.
From breaking down faulty blood tests to leveraging DNA evidence in high-profile criminal cases, I've made it my mission to use science as the ultimate game-changer in securing justice. On your show, I'd offer your audience, behind-the-scenes stories from real cases where forensic evidence turned the tide. How science and law intersect to challenge assumptions and win high-stake battles. The truth about forensic evidence, what works, what doesn't, what TV crime dramas get wrong. Actionable insights for listeners on navigating the justice system and understanding forensic evidence.
That is what our listeners want. They've been emailing about actionable.
True crime fans love a deep dive into the details that decide a case, and the evidence will give them a rare insider look at how the justice system really works when forensic science takes the spotlight. You can see more about me at URL. If this aligns with your audience, I'd be honored to join your podcast and share my story, strategy, and expertise.
I mean, that's nice.
If not, I truly appreciate your time and consideration. Look forward to hearing you. Best regards, Tad, and then a couple of links. And I'm like, it's funny. It's not for us. I'll bring it up on the podcast. We'll talk about it and be like, should we have Tad? You say no, we'll move on. But then 4 days later, Tad's like, hey, podcast team, I'm back again. And he has this whole thing. And so I responded, I'm not reading this other email, but then I say, hey, Tad, my guy, I love the cold pitch as much as the next podcast host. But what you're pitching isn't even remotely in the sphere of what we cover on the show. You can remove us from your list. So then within an hour, hi, podcast team. This is Kay, Tad's assistant. Understood. I appreciate your response and will remove you from our list. Thanks for your time and best of luck with your show. Best, Kay.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
But I was just like, Tad, don't follow up. Don't give us more information.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. That's fine. He seems like a nice guy and all that stuff sounds cool.
I was like, was I really dickish? But I was not. I was just like, guy, it's not what we do.
It sounds like Kay's the one that's doing the emailing anyway.
I think Kay is Tad.
Let's have him on.
I'm not having Tad on the podcast. You know what? On second thought, we're pivoting to true crime.
No. Let's bring Tad on to talk about
true crime, hard crime case.
Yeah, Rex Stout. Let's have like a true crime expert and be like, Tad, you have to read this book and then come on and talk about it. Does that work?
No.
No, it wouldn't. Okay, I tried, Tad.
Keep reading. Keep tatting.
Yeah. I feel like maybe I have done that before as a crime. Dog napping. Today's crime is dog napping. Stealing a dog.
Now it's time for a breakdown.